with the triangulation, triangulation is really fascinating because people want to measure the triangulation. And so they actually go and start using the comparative measuring process. So they use the drawing process to be able to do the triangulation, which is just moving an angle across. And here my mother was saying it really is just a more or less a guesstimate, a fun part of the drawing process. So it's almost like people take away the fun because they're afraid to get it wrong. And that in itself really helps people emotionally become comfortable with that so-called word mistake. And there we've been taught the mistakes from our schooling industry, whether and it's nothing wrong with the schooling industry or in that sense how everyone sets up their schooling world. But if you are constantly walking through life being afraid to make mistakes or putting yourself down when you make those mistakes, and especially judging yourself harshly and criticizing other people, this process helps unravel that. That's what the emotional part of this technical drawing process helps people with. Is there anything you want to add on that, on the triangulation part?
I don't think that the schooling systems and college systems didn't show us this skill that we could apply, which is such a pity, because triangulation is just plotting things into place in relation to things. So they've used this in time in more many years ago, 15th century already, how to gauge where ships are. I mean, you've got this mass, sea mass. So the only way you could gauge where a ship is, you know, with longitude and latitude. And you take those longitudinal, latitudinal lines and use the triangulation method to plot exactly where the ship's position is. I mean, it's been there forever.
Yeah,
it is simple. So I think where people do get a bit challenged with is the transferring the angle accurately from one surface to another. That's got to be super accurate. So it's getting the mind to control the muscles. So when you're holding that pencil up in the air and you're transferring from one surface to another, that angle must never change. It must be the same. Once you get that right, it's so easy. It sorts out perspective as well.
So in other words, what you're saying is a lot of people criticize the end result, but they don't perfect the things in place or the tools to be able to create that end result. So one of them would be having a locked elbow, standing up, you know, having a straighter stick. You know, so if you've got a bent paintbrush, that's not going to help you transfer that angle. And a lot of people will criticize the end result instead of looking at the back end process of what's not working and criticize the result. So emotionally, that in itself says a lot, whether you're in a business, whether you're in a relationship, because in relationships, we take things, how people say, incorrectly. We read emails and put emotion to the email and misjudge or characterize that. We don't look at the back end processes of an end result of what's perception of failure. And we don't look at what's going on in the back end that made that result happen. So people obviously then sink into certain emotions or become anxious or depressed. So it's getting to the root of the cause is what it's helping with. And emotionally, that's what this process helps with, is getting to the root of the cause and taking to you know, obviously just identifying what that root cause is first. So then the last part of it is then the depth part. And I think this is the depth part which then summarizes the whole process of the thinking, which is, okay, so once you have identified the root cause, where can we then make the change? So how can I go deeper to change that? And that's how this helps emotionally with things. Now, with the depth process, do you want to explain a little bit about this? I mean, this is really the real simple drawing process that you've put in place. What technically do you want to add to that on the depth process?
How do I put it simply? Okay, so when you're dealing with straight lines and you're creating depth on a two-dimensional plane.
Like that.
Yeah. Remember, if it's straight, then lines that are coming towards you. So it's having a little bit of understanding of a perspective. So, and you're dealing with either straight lines or curved lines. So, you know, if something's very close to your eye, it's bigger, exactly what you've just done there before. And if it's moving away from your eye, there you go, then it's smaller. So the hand that's closest to me, okay, the width of that piece of paper is going to be a whole lot wider than the width of the paper that's, you know, right behind, which is almost close to your mouth. So, you know, that's the most important thing, what's near and what's far.
Yeah.
There you go.
And also, because obviously we're on a screen, it's showing nice how flat it is. And technically that is just a line. So if we had to draw the line, it was just a line there. That line is longer. This is how long the piece of paper is. The minute I change the line, and all it is really a straight line. But it's just a straight line going from the tip of my finger up to the top. But because our mind overcomplicates that, our mind then puts it out of proportion. That's when the hand and eye coordination doesn't start working together. So emotionally, we overcomplicate areas that we are in ourselves complicating. So the depth helps you to uncomplicate that, unravel that, get out of that, you know, knee-jerk reaction or fight or flight, maybe.
Get out of your head.
And get out of your head and calm down, and then make an informed decision instead of even a calculated decision, as opposed to, you know, it's almost like, oh, we're going to go buy this house, let's go buy it, but we haven't actually looked at the house is falling apart. So we are looking, you know, we're looking at both sides before just emotionally jumping into something. So it almost helps you take a bit of accountability for your emotions before you make that decision.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's I mean, that's just on the basic technical drawing process, because then you go into a whole lot of different areas there, and then you get taught how to bring those two areas together: the drawing and the shading of the pressures of the hand, of the you know, the triangulation, the comparison, the hand and eye coordination, the more or less. We now start bringing that together in projects. And the one thing that you start looking into is reflective projects, which is like glass. And you obviously teach people how to do the shading of a glass, which is combining all those lines and then the pressures of the hand together. So do you just want to briefly explain, when you're doing a reflective project, what is the process of that technically, and how does it help you achieve other things that you're drawing or eventually painting?
Well, I know that the students hated the dreaded kettle. Obviously, because it's got multi curves and it's bulbous. Yeah, there's a very good example. Yeah. Well, what you're showing now is things that are transparent, so they're going to take on the environment. And that's the most important thing. Anything that's transparent, remember that you've got to draw the environment as well, because it's connected to that transparent object. Yeah, and just to always remember to have your full range of tones going from dark to light, which is important.
And also to add, so like you in this reflective process, there are really clear shapes that a lot of us complicate, because you then are putting that clear shape together, and then you are changing the pressures of the hand in each shape, because it might be gradual from hard to medium to light pressure, but the shape is so clear. And then we get in the way and we want to complicate that, and we want to go, well, no, that's not how it is, or because it should be round, or we start interfering in the process. And
then also, thanks for that, for reminding me, Justine, also to remind people that an oval, okay, is just a circle.
Yeah,
really, in a obviously in a different perspective. But it's still a circle, but it appears different from a different perspective, really, a different point of view.
Yeah. So yeah, again, but technically, when you're learning the reflective process, this helps with obviously learning how to do water, the wetness of an eye, other areas where they're highly reflective, when you've got the reflection of the water on the ocean, or to achieve that wetness feel, isn't it? That illusion of wet in
yes. And exactly what you said, it's not as complex as one thinks. It's just taking one little section at the time and making sure that you've got your tonal value scale present, and that your reflections, the edges of the reflections, are just very hard. And then it varies, you've got hard, medium, and soft edges with your reflections. So I might sound a bit weird, but it is training the brain for the eye to see in an abstract way.
And as you
take the identity out of things.
You take the identity out of things. So then exactly what you said now, how this helps emotionally when helping people process what's going on in their business, their life, their relationships. It helps them take what's going on in their environment and go with the flow, but make the changes. So it's almost like, again, if you think of Kung Fu Panda, where he takes whatever's been thrown with him and he goes with the flow. Obviously, Kung Fu Panda, my daughter's been doing Kung Fu, but it's the energy, isn't it? It's taking on the environment, not letting the environment affect you, not letting the environment change you, but rather the opposite of you. Simplify the process and find the solution in the chaos. Find the strategy in the chaos. Find the whatever is going on in the outside world, and make the change in a calm, balanced manner, and obviously adapt and make those changes. Is there anything else you want to add on that glass project?
Yeah, I think everyone must watch cartoons from now on, because they're just such important messages about life.
Yeah.